Okay, everyone, welcome to AAC in the Cloud. I'm super excited to have Kristin Ellis here with us today, presenting on improving quality of life and fostering relationships using AAC. Thank you, Kristin.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. So I'm just going to get right into introducing myself, since the title of the presentation was introduced, and of course, my name. A little bit about me. I received my bachelor's and my master's degrees from East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania. I've worked in a variety of public, charter, approved private schools for varying diagnoses, including blind and visually impaired, autism spectrum disorder, and emotional disturbance. I've also worked in a variety of healthcare settings, including outpatient clinics, skilled nursing facilities, and home health. I'm currently the director of speech therapy and the AAC specialist at Behavioral Health Associates, which is my full-time employer. And I opened my private practice that specializes in augmentative and alternative communication in July of 2020, amidst the COVID pandemic. Some of my disclosures, my financial disclosures, as I'm a full-time speech language pathologist and AAC specialist with Behavioral Health Associates. I am the owner of Time to Talk Therapy Services, my private practice. Also, throughout the presentation, you're going to hear me reference and see pictures and other things that are from the AAC summer camp that I have developed, which is the Everyone Deserves a Voice AAC summer camp. And some non-financial disclosures. I'm a member of ASHA, a SIG 12 affiliate, a USAC, and an ISAC member. So before we can kind of get into the improving, quality of life and, fostering the relationships, a lot of times I always get these 5 W's of AAC, the who, what, where, when, why, and, you'll have to start that process before we can even delve deep into improving the quality of their life. So, what is AAC? It's an area of clinical practice that supplements or compensates for impairments in speech and language production and or comprehension, including spoken and written modes of communication. It falls under that broader umbrella of assistive technology. Sometimes when people are referring to devices, the AAC devices, they will say assistive technology, but they don't mean that, so it's under that realm of assistive technology, but assistive technology is actually any equipment or tool or strategy that it's used to improve functional daily living in an individual's disabilities or any kind of limitation. AAC can use a variety of techniques, and tools to help individuals express their thoughts, their wants and needs, their feelings and ideas, including some of the following, manual signs, gestures, finger spelling, the use of tangible objects, line drawings, picture communication boards, like you can see on the back in the picture here, as well as speech generating devices, which is going to be a lot of our focus today once we get there. AAC is augmentative when it's used to supplement existing speech, and alternative when it's used in place of speech that is absent or not functional. That could be temporary or permanent, depending on the situation. And of course, it can be no or low tech, mid tech, or high tech. Some examples of no tech or low tech AAC. We've got flip boards or manual core boards, picture exchange, icon communication. Some of those mid-tech devices, you're starting to have voice output, but a lot of them you need to record the messages onto them. They might have so many levels. They're kind of limited in their ability to expand. So we have Little Macs and Big Macs, Go Talk 20s, or even some of the larger Go Talks. And then also a Logan Prox talker is another example. And of course, the world of high-tech AAC continues to grow, from PRC Saltillo products to Tobii Dynavox to SmartBox, and the list kind of continues to go on, and then dedicated iOS devices as well that are out there now. So some of the advantages of kind of going towards this high-tech device route, You know, there's a popular myth out there about AAC and speech generating devices that, it's going to obstruct the development of the verbal speech. But we know in our field that the research has shown the complete opposite of that, and that it does help children develop language and verbal speech faster. That doesn't mean that they're going to be a fluid verbal communicator. But even in a session I was working with a kiddo prior to this presentation tonight, he was choosing to verbally spell words tonight, but also spelling it on his device simultaneously. So that's the first time we were seeing that. So we're seeing, after him being a device user for the majority of his life, he's now starting to do some verbal communication and attempts. It allows an individual to say and play with words. This actual same individual has been babbling more and more with new vocabulary that we've been working on, which is helping that process of acquiring new words and language, just like, typically developing children do when they're babbling as they're little, and we're encouraging that and expanding on that. It allows children to have visual and auditory representation of vocabulary words and the ability to combine words to make, more meaningful sentences. In addition, we're pairing the communicated word with voice output, which helps any child with auditory processing of spoken language. They're hearing that, they're having time to process that before they kind of act on that. So who is eligible to use AAC devices? Everyone. People of all ages can use AAC, if they have trouble with their speech or language skills. And a lot of times people think that this is limited to even people that have limited verbal communication or next to no verbal communication. I've seen more and more individuals using high-tech AAC devices to even help supplement, comprehension of stories, and ability to answer questions. They verbally can do that, but the pictures are helping to support that, or having the words in front of them is helping to support their ability to answer those questions. Some people are using AAC throughout their life, but others may only use it for a short period of time. There's no minimum or maximum age to introduce someone to AAC, and there's no prerequisites for someone to use AAC either. So where are we getting, these devices? School districts, local in the state of Pennsylvania, local intermediate units, or something equivalent to that in a different state, outpatient clinics, hospital clinics, there's grant funding. There's several different ways now to obtain devices, which is making getting access to the technology all the more easier, and allowing us to implement the technology sooner with individuals than them having to wait for a certain age or skills to develop. We're able to kind of start. My youngest currently is about 1.5 years, and my oldest is 60. So there's a wide range with the individuals I work with as well. This is a lot of kind of what we're going to be talking about from here on out. Like, why would a child need, an AAC device, to establish a means of communication, most certainly, but also that social interaction piece. We want to promote language development. We want to support cognitive development and learning. We want to enhance work and educational opportunities for these individuals. We want to facilitate speech development, clarify their speech production if they are able to speak, but they become highly unintelligible, especially when they're in conversation, and enhance their participation in society. That's a big what we're looking for. We want, and I want all of my clients to be successful individuals and a part of society. And it just reminds me like how AAC can, connect. Two boys in this picture here, they didn't even know each other before they attended a camp for individuals who use AAC devices, and they probably never would have crossed paths. They live about 2 hours from one another, and they probably never would have had that opportunity to connect without AAC being a part of their lives. Along with the why is always the when, like when is the right time to, implement a device and start working on these skills with them. AAC should be considered for any child when their speech output is not adequate to communicate everything that a child may want or need to communicate. And some things that we should be considering when we're kind of asking that question. And a lot of this I'm asking of families too, because it's not just the child or the person that's potentially going to be using the AAC device, but it's that support system too. So what is the child's frustration level, levels like? What's the adults, if it's an adult, their frustration level like? What's their access to their school curriculum? Do they have access to their school curriculum? Are they able to participate in classroom activities? Or are they just kind of sitting there? What's their ability to demonstrate knowledge to their teachers? I completely understand what you're saying, or I don't understand and I'm asking for clarification. Access to their home and their community environment, their ability to interact appropriately with family and their peers, and independence in developmentally appropriate daily activities. Are all things that we want to be considering, and the image is, if not now, when? Everyone says like the right time. Well, when's the right time to do it? Or they're not quite ready, or they're not, it takes time. So the longer you wait, these are years that we're missing out on. And that's what I try to instill on the families that are coming through my doors, is that we don't want to lose that crucial time. So the earlier the better. This is one of my little guys that we started him with a device at the age of 2. He is on the autism spectrum. His name is Nash. And his moms have given me, the ability to share lots about Nash's story. And we're going to focus a little bit on Nash to get started, about, why we implemented it so early with him and why we didn't play the waiting game. Well, let's wait for the verbal communication to come about. Early intervention is key to kind of helping a lot of these little guys start to communicate and connect. Not only is it critical to the development of at-risk children, it's also a federal mandate for those who qualify, right? That IDEA Part C requires that appropriate early intervention services are available to all eligible infants and toddlers with disabilities and their families. It also mandates that as necessary, infants and toddlers with a disability use assistive technology devices and services. Such a device is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether it's acquired commercially off the shelf, it's modified or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capacities of that infant or toddler with a disability. And AAC devices are collectively included into this category. So a lot of people will question me as to why, he was 2, why wouldn't we wait? Well, let's talk about what's expected upon a child entering preschool. For a typically developing child and what they're able to do, they are demonstrating the ability to understand thousands of words and a variety of different sentence types. Their sentences are well formed and complex, but this isn't the case for all children, specifically Nash, we're going to talk about. Some infants and toddlers are facing challenges because of neuromotor, cognitive, genetic, sensory, social, and communicative, and other disabilities that may be present. Their babbling might be slow to develop, so there's some severe delays in learning to talk. And if and when speech develops, it may be difficult to understand. A lot of children with complex communication needs like Nash, they're beginning communicators. They're classified as beginning communicators, and they have an expressive vocabulary of sometimes fewer than 50 words. And remember what we said on the previous slide, by the time they're entering preschool, they're supposed to be demonstrating, an understanding of thousands. And a lot of times that expressive and receptive for typically developing peers is kind of right in line with each other. For young children with complex communication needs, AAC devices and strategies can be the key to their development of communication, language, literacy, play, and cognitive abilities. So the earlier that we can incorporate this into their lives, the greater the potential for improving their outcomes. Unfortunately, many children with complex communication needs are not introduced to AAC until after that critical window that exists, that like 12 to 24 month window where their brains are sponges and they're picking up like everything. So that's why we said the earlier, the better. It doesn't mean that it can't be done, but of course, the earlier you're going to start to see progression in their skills, along with their peers. So how do we work to introduce it earlier? We need to identify, the characteristics of these beginning communicators more quickly and match their particular needs to the right kind of AAC technology for them. So there's this call to action for all of us in the field that are looking to learn more about AAC, maybe implement more AAC with our clients and our students, that it's effective in developing functional communication for infants and toddlers, and honestly, anyone of any age with complex communication needs. But a lot of our little guys, they're not receiving any AAC intervention, even though there's the ability, and it's been shown that that can make a difference. And there's a lot of this AAC underuse, and that's being reported in research, that even though caregivers report that their children's communication issues hampered their participation in daily routines, that AAC is not being sought out. So early intervention providers, along with outpatient providers and schools, we've found that there's a lot of this focus on teaching skill development, like vocalizing or signing without implementing any other kind of AAC as well, to toddlers that are 12 to 24 months. But there's no introduction of low or high-tech AAC devices. And AAC should not only be considered an early intervention, but it should be implemented, as soon as these infants or toddlers with special needs are identified as AAC candidates. And we know from our WHO earlier on, everybody could benefit, right? So that they quickly benefit from its support of speech, language, and of course, literacy development. Caregivers and early interventionists, they need to work hand in hand to ensure that, young children with complex communication needs learn, they're able to play and talk to their maximum potential. So how do we do that? Well, we have to find high interest activities for these individuals. Maybe the child is super interested in letters, and what can we do to promote, communication using letters? Well, let's build a huge tower of letters, big foam letters, and let's knock them down. And then let's build them back up, and let's talk about the order we're going to put them in. Or are we going to alternate the colors, and which ones are blue, and kind of finding things that are high interest to your client that's going to make a difference. Lots of our clients tend to like animals, maybe not touching them and directly interacting with them, but looking at them and, talking about that animal. And, with this picture in the middle, this was actually today, and we were bringing out the chinchillas and letting him touch them and see, well, let's talk about it. How does it feel? And what color is it? And promoting the asking questions of, what does it eat? What does the chinchilla eat? And he was super excited about being able to ask these questions and get answers, using his device, which is kind of hard to see, but it's on the floor in between the two of them. And then this is his job coach in the middle that's kind of helping with promoting communication. And then on the right-hand side, we have, a speech therapist and a teenager kind of sitting and looking at penned goats from a petting zoo, and you know, what are they doing, and talking about what they're doing and what they sound like, and you know, they're interested in talking about the animals and looking at them and modeling the vocabulary for him, and then it's promoting him to kind of go back and talk about these things, and seeing the power that that has. And what that has when you're sitting and doing high interest activities is you start to form bonds. You know, you start to be able to sit closer to them. They start to come over and hug you because you're acknowledging the things that they like. And they're starting to interact together, which is something great that our camp is able to do by putting, you know, individuals together that probably otherwise wouldn't meet, but they do at our camp because they're all using devices. But they're also forming bonds with our staff as well, and starting to have that back and forth communication exchange, which is what they're seeking to have anyway, because we're all human beings and we seek social interaction. We don't want to not talk to anyone. We don't want to not socialize, but sometimes these kids, the majority of them that are attend our camp are on the autism spectrum, and they just don't know how to do that. And what happens over time is the possibilities become endless. And we're starting to use our communication device to do touch math because we think it's fun. We've learned all these other things we can do too, and we learned how we can direct the actions of others. And like, you can see the smile on the SLPs and the teacher's face by just how interested we are to participate in this. So academic achievement has now improved, and group socialization has now become a thing, where maybe these kiddos in the past have had that social isolation. Wow, I can't talk today. But now they're around others that are using devices, and they're like, hey, it's not just me. And now I can sit in a group with other kids and talk about things and participate. And we can start to develop friendship. And I'm going to hang out with my friend on the swing and kind of, you know, be annoying. My kids do this, and they're typically developing, right? They want to bother the other one. So they're also just improving their use of the device. Sorry, I'm reading questions as they're like coming in. And then my girl on the bottom, just, you know, no interest in the device at all. And then, you know, now we started on 28 sequenced with her and Unity. And as of last week, in a year's time, I've been able to increase her to 84 sequenced. So just, you know, availability of more vocabulary. And we know on those devices that it's like real estate. The more things that are there, the more things that they can participate in, they can comment on, they can question. Let me, before I go on to like videos and stuff, because I might answer some of these because I have a lot of videos. And how can we teach autism, children with autism, with severe intellectual disabilities, how to use AAC systems? So many of the kiddos that you're seeing in the pictures, the videos that you're going to see, do have diagnoses of intellectual disabilities, and you are going to get to see some of my activities that I do in when I'm first introducing them, and then kind of the things that they're doing as they're getting older and more proficient with their devices as well. So I can elaborate more on that if you kind of don't get the answers from some of the videos that I show. what would I suggest to use with a 2-year-old who loves to explore through tearing up paper lamination and will throw mid and high tech options? Oh, they're fun. I'd love to leave something with the family and little one to use, but have reservations about the little one having access to destroy everything I've given so far. Any input's greatly appreciated. Oh my goodness, the little ones that do that. Oh, so I definitely don't know if I probably wouldn't even like try to solely do like a laminated like manual board. I always give my families manual boards, but I'll give them multiple ones. And if you're using like one of the bigger like companies that make those available, that you can either download them from their website, or I even reach out to the local representatives and I say, hey, I need a bunch of word power boards, or I need a bunch of Unity boards or lamp boards for life, or Snap plus Core First. They'll send me them, the nice heavy duty laminated ones rather than the ones that we laminate on our own time, because I think they hold up a little bit better. They still do kind of, if they're ripping and destroying, they probably still will do that. But I think what I would do is, if you're going to do like a high-tech system, if they're throwing things, I'd caution like a tablet. If you're going to explore the use of a tablet, I think it needs to be in a more heavy duty case, to prevent any kind of destruction of the screen, is what I would do. Another option would be, depending on the software that you're looking to leave, maybe a trial with a more dedicated system that is able to withstand the throwing a little bit better. Like a Tobii Dynavox i110, or an Accent device, or a Nova Chat device, just because they're meant to withstand that more than when iPads and iPhones and things like that were developed. They were not developed with the intent to be thrown, especially with force. Maybe they were developed and could withstand with a drop, but not like a chuck across the room. So something that you could look at if you're looking at those types of devices, because they're meant to withstand that, is kind of going through a trial period with one of those through one of the companies. You also can do like trials with some of the dedicated companies that do like the iPads and other tablet-like devices, but it may not withstand the throwing or being stepped on or something like that, which can be tough with the little guys. And a lot of times I'm using the families to kind of help control that situation. Like if they see like they're going to rip it, like, can we put our hand down to kind of grip onto it, so when he tries to chuck it, it's not going to go anywhere because I'm holding on to it. So there's quite a few things that you could do depending on what your specific situation is. You can also feel free to message me if you want to talk more specifically about your situation. Maybe I can help guide you. I think I got all the questions for now. So I'm going to show you how I started with Nash and how I started introducing a device to him. He was really, really hard to focus because he was like just turned 2. He was a very young 2, like just had a birthday. So I'm going to do this. Hopefully the quality is okay. We did test a few of them beforehand, but I do have a storm rolling through my area. So hopefully it does not create any issues. And let me just pause it while it loads a second. So what you're going to see in the video here is, of course, myself and Nash. And Nash is really into cars, like Disney Pixar cars. So I know there were some other wonderful trainings earlier today on using like Canva to customize things that you can do with kids. And I use a lot of Canva, especially with my little guys, to kind of get them to be really interested, because I can use anything high interest to them. I can pull images of anything. So we were using cars to really draw him in. So I'm just going to play this. And this is like the first time I introduced him to the device.
should we do? Mater? Oh, show me. You tell me. Mater, let's put him on. There he is. Oh yes, there he is. Lots of maters.
So I was modeling, I know some of it's kind of glitching a little bit, probably because of the storm coming through and the words aren't matching the mouth type thing. But he was selecting Mater within like the characters and the watching, and we were moving Mater from the clip art section of Canva onto the Canvas screen. And it's hard to see, but in that I had a background of like Radiator Springs, and we were adding Mater. And when he was clicking Mater, we were adding more Maters. So there were multiple Maters, which made him super excited that he was controlling how many of them ended up on the screen. So super meaningful to him, super exciting. And then as we were going, he of course got better and quicker at doing these things. So even in the same session, as he was learning what we were doing, so another obsession he had when we first introduced him to the software was he loved the movie Encanto, and specifically he loved that introductory song, the Family Madrigal. He like loved it. He got super excited about it. So I embedded the video into Canva, and when we got to that certain section in there, like we could click on it by selecting, I had put the core words into there that we wanted to make it go. So I'm going to play that for you.
It stopped.
So the video stopped.
Good job.
And that's a quick one.
It stopped.
And then he's pushing go.
Good job.
So he pushed go, and then I repeated the song for him, or kept the song going. So you saw how he needed a lot of guidance in the first video, but even in the same session, like we were starting to be like, oh, there's so much power here with just that little button that, oh, now she's making that go. You know, but the other piece of this is you have to have the carryover from the family. So this family was wonderful with implementation.
What are you watching? Show me, what are you watching?
Dave and Ava.
Good job.
So he also had a Dave and Ava obsession, if you're not familiar with the Dave and Ava. So it's lots of like nursery rhyme type songs. And he's buying into it because he's able to talk about his high interest things, you know, cars and Encanto and Dave and Ava. And we're mixing it up and not sticking with just one thing. You know, we're starting to play into all of his interests. And this happened several months later. And then Nash is getting to 3-word phrases now, and more. He's doing wonderful. So this is where it can go after months of AAC.
Nash, you like to watch Moana. Can you tell me? Can you tell me? You like it? Like what? What do you like? What do you like?
Watch Moana.
Good job. Nash.
So you see how like just he's the big smiles that he's giving because he's able to do and share about things he loves. And that's all he wants to be able to do. And he's having that connection with his moms, that they're talking about things he likes. And that's what we all do. We talk about things we like and things we're interested in. So his moms gave me a wonderful quote from them that, you know, I asked them the question, you know, what has AAC done for, you know, Nash and your family? And they said that AAC has meant the difference between having to try to guess what our child wants is feeling, knowing exactly what he wants or feels. He used to get so upset trying to show us what he wanted while we guessed, and we would all end up sad and frustrated. I started to see him give up trying, and he would just look so defeated. Now that he can tell us basic things he wants to eat or drink or watch, or if he wants to take a bath, you can see his face light up, and it's an amazing feeling. And this is Jessica Kaiser, one of Nash's moms. So before the device was implemented to now several months, almost a year later, the progress is amazing. So another guy I want to introduce you to is William. And William has been a device user for about 3 years now. And I want to show you him before his device, or like very recent implementation. And then after having that device in place for a little while, the change that we started to see in him. This is William. And I'm going to pause while it loads a second. Can we spell it first? B. B. B.
B.
Oh.
Zip.
B.
B.
William, what comes next? A.
A. T.
Good job.
Bat.
You spelled bat. You spelled. What did you spell? Can you find it? Where is it?
Bat.
So we were working on phonics skills with him. We discovered through the implementation of the device that
Do you own your home in
he
Pennsylvania?
had a love of words and word families and reading and all of that. So we played into the high interest. And what he was doing was, it was a slider of like the at, and then the consonants would change and it would make a new word. So it would be fat, cat, bat, hat. And then we were finding those words on the device, but he was also spelling them, and we were working on his phonics. Now you saw a lot of that stimming that he was doing and the teeth grinding that he was doing. So that was like right after implementing his permanent device. And then William starts working at his own pace. This is, I believe this is the video of mom catching him in the act of going through a sight word book, finding all the words on the device that she sent to me.
W.
Oh, no, never mind. It's not that one. But he's a fast worker. So he's using the letters to build the word.
W. H. O. Who?
Hi, William.
W.
I'm just going to play it again because it was shorter.
W. H. O. Who?
Hi, William. Oh, and I stopped sharing. Sorry. That's not what I meant to do. So he was working at his own pace to kind of build those words and go through. And from the time that we first started, he had already increased his layout. So we went from a 60 basic to an 80 with the keyboard on the front because he loves spelling things and he's super interested. Now, the last video of him after the implementation of the device for quite some time, this video is about 2.5 years later. William is now self-advocating, which is what I want everybody to do. Let's put our paper here. You ready? First word.
I need help.
You need help? I'll help you.
I
Need.
need
Good. 2.
to
We need to spell. U.
U.S.
E. Good.
E.
Yeah. Use. Look at that next word.
Use it.
Yep.
Bathroom.
Good job.
Let's put our paper here. You ready?
And when I asked William's mom the same question that I had asked Nash's mom, and just to be clear, William didn't get a device until he was in first grade. So he was older than Nash. His mom said that AAC allowed us to show and provide evidence that William was not getting the adequate education for his intelligence and academic abilities. So William was in a more of a self-contained type classroom, and they didn't think he could do any of these skills that he's showing that he's super highly interested in. And all of that's different now. And you can see how mellow he is in the 2.5 year later video, that he's not kind of doing that stimming on his head or grinding his teeth. You know, he's relaxed, and all around like a better communicator because of it. And we want progress, not perfection. Going from not participating to being able to comment with our head tracking device.
I suspect she might be a
Panda bear.
You're close.
Did you find a panda bear?
You did find one of the animals. I suspect she might be a
Panda bear.
You're close.
Did you find a panda bear?
And we're acknowledging that you picked the panda bear, even though that's not what I asked you. Maybe you like the panda bear. So maybe it wasn't right, but you know, from going from not being able to read to reading fluently. This one's a little quiet. I'm sorry.
Orange. Eat.
Groups. What word comes next? This one here.
Dinosaur.
Good. Dinosaur. What's the next word?
Is. Little.
Good. Touch the top. Read the whole thing. Lucius, the top.
The orange dinosaur is little. The.
You know, going from limited verbal to spontaneous communicator. You know, we're very limited in our verbal communication. And now we're talking up a storm.
I.
And reading.
The.
Better quality
Giraffe.
of life.
Good job.
Because we can do these things.
Let's make our whole sentence. I. You do. I.
See.
Giraffe.
Giraffe.
Period.
Period.
Where's your...
I see giraffe.
I.
See.
The. Giraffe.
Giraffe.
Good job. Let's make our whole sentence.
And going from running around the room or were considered a behavioral problem to actually participating in the activities that are presented to us.
Jace, what's the word? What word did we do? What's this word? Jace, can you tell Miss Kristin? That word is... That word is... Good job. Good job, buddy. Jace, what's...
You know, so until every voice is heard, that's the whole point of all of this. You know, Kelsey's mom, who was head tracking, said since introducing AAC to Kelsey, she's been able to alert people around her to her needs, including if she is thirsty, tired, or wants to play. Kelsey is also about 97% accurate on her use of the word seizure that we programmed on the front of her device to communicate when she feels an aura coming. Again, she's able to communicate it before it happens, or before we weren't able to communicate at all. Some other quotes that are on here, you know, the AAC device has given us hope that someday in the near future, you know, she'll be able to communicate with us and the rest of the world. I mean, that just says it all. These parents' words are just saying it all and how it's changed their lives for the better. You know, it's made them realize how much brighter their children are. You know, now knowing that they have a foundation of communication. This one talks about the decrease in their child's behaviors. from 20 documented behaviors a day down to 4 to 5 in the school setting, and way less tantrums in the home setting. And of course, if you're not displaying explosive behaviors, you're getting more out of your life. And that's my contact information. If anyone has any specific questions for me related to a particular case or a kiddo or anything I can help you with. I did kind of go through fast at the end just so that I could leave room for any questions if there would be any questions, or to talk about any more specifics about any of the kids.
Hey, Kristin, let me double check and see if we've got any more questions in here. I think
Okay.
you've addressed most of them. But if anyone has more questions, feel free to put them in the Slack chat. But I think you were able to address most of them.
Yeah, I just didn't talk too much about the materials because I knew the videos were going to show some of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a great comment here. Wow, that's awesome. Being able to communicate before a seizure. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
huge.
And
Huge.
that girl specifically was basically told, and still sometimes is told, to be a vegetable, like that she doesn't have communication, and she absolutely does.
Absolutely. That's
So, and it's just, you're exposing them to these different things, and that's what's, you're teaching that when the seizure happens, you're modeling seizure, and like, this is what's happening, this is what we call this, and then, now she's able to do it.
yeah,
on her
that's incredible. Well, I don't see any other questions in here, so we'll
Okay.
go ahead and wrap up. But as you said, your contact information is listed here. Thank you so much for presenting, Kristin. And
Oh,
thank
you're
you.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for everyone for participating. And I hope you all have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, Kristin.
Bye.